All right, so we're going to start in 1 Samuel, the 9th chapter, starting with verse 1. Now there was a man of Benjamin, whose name was Kish, the son of Abiel, the son of Zeror, the son of Bechorath, the son of Aphiah, a Benjamite, a mighty man of power. And he had a son, whose name was Saul, a choice young man, and a goodly. And there was not among the children of Israel a goodlier person than he. From his shoulders and upward, he was higher than any of the people. So he looked the part, right? He was, as we say now, a head taller than everyone else, because it said that he was goodly, and he looked the part, a choice young man, because back then kings, like we think of like King Charles today, right? Just an old man who sits on the throne and basically does nothing. But back then, excuse me, the kings were people who led the people out to war, right? They led the people in all things. Of course, older kings would sit back on the throne, but that's because their career would have been established by that point. All right, but my point is that kings used to lead the people out to battle. So that's why the Israelites wanted a king to represent them, right? They wanted to be like everyone else. They wanted someone who would represent them in battle. All right. Verse 3, and the asses of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. And Kish said to Saul his son, take now one of the servants with thee, and arise and go seek the asses. And he passed through Mount Ephraim, he passed through the land of Shalisha, but they found them not. Then they passed through the land of Shalim, and there they were not. And he passed through the land of the Benjamites, but they found them not. All right, so we can go into where some of these lands are. You know, I like pulling up these maps if you've seen this before. I like this one the best. And of course, he's from, I think it's at Gibeah, which I don't think it's the same as Gibeon, but similar. Either way, he's from Benjamin. There's the land of Benjamin. Said he went all throughout Benjamin, went through Mount Ephraim, which is all this right here. All right. Let's go back. All right, but they found them not. Verse 5, and when they were come to the land of Zuph, Saul said to his servant that was with him, come and let us return, lest my father leave caring for the asses, and take thought for us. And he said unto him, behold, now there is in this city a man of God, and he is an honorable man. All that he saith surely come to pass. Now let us go thither. Peradventure he can show us our way that we should go. So he said, okay, let's go to the man of God. He probably knows which way that the asses went. Then said Saul to his servant, but behold, if we go, what shall we bring the man? For the bread is spent on our vessels, and there is not a present to bring the man of God. What have we? And the servant answered Saul again and said, behold, I have here at hand the fourth part of a shekel of silver, that I will give to the man of God to tell us our way. Verse 9, it says, before time in Israel, when a man went to inquire of God, thus he spake, come and let us go to the seer, for he that is now called a prophet was before time called a seer. And I was going to call last week's title Samuel the seer, but I figured a lot of people wouldn't get it. But that's where it comes from. He was called a seer at the time. Prophets were called seers at the time because they saw visions. All right, verse 10. Then said Saul to his servant, well said, come, let us go. So they went unto the city where the man of God was, right? So they decided to bring him the present of the silver, right? Verse 11, and as they went up the hill to the city, they found young maidens going out to draw water, and said unto them, is the seer here? And they answered them and said, he is. Behold, he is before you. Make haste now, for he came today to the city. For there is a sacrifice of the people today in the high place. As soon as ye be come into the city, ye shall straightway find him, before he go up to the high place to eat. For the people will not eat until he come, because he doth bless the sacrifice, and afterwards they eat that be bidden. Now, therefore, get you up, for about this time ye shall find him. All right, so he came to the city to bless the sacrifice. All right. And they went up into the city, and when they were come into the city, behold, Samuel came out against them for to go up to the high place. Right, so they were coming in one way, he was coming out the other way. Now the Lord had told Samuel in his ear a day before Saul came, saying, tomorrow about this time I will send thee a man out of the land of Benjamin, and thou shalt anoint him to be captain over my people, Israel, that he may save my people out of the hand of the Philistines. For I have looked upon my people, because their cry is come unto me. And when Samuel saw Saul, the Lord said unto him, Behold, the man whom I spake to thee of, this same shall reign over my people. Right? So when he saw Saul, he actually knew. Or he immediately knew, I should say. He immediately knew who the Lord was talking about. Who's going to be the first king over his people. All right. Verse 18. Then Saul drew near to Samuel in the gate and said, Tell me, I pray thee, where the seer's house is. Right? Because Saul doesn't know what Samuel looks like. He just knows of him. And Samuel answered Saul and said, I am the seer. Go up before me into the high place, for ye shall eat with me today, and tomorrow I will let thee go, and will tell thee all that is in thy heart. Right, answer all your questions. And as for thine asses that were lost 3 days ago, set not thy mind on them, for they are found. And on whom is all the desire of Israel? Is it not on thee, and on all thy father's house? And Saul answered and said, Am not I a Benjamite, of the smallest of the tribes of Israel, and my family the least of the families of the tribe of Benjamin? Wherefore then speakest thou so to me? Right? Because the people may have thought at the time that the king was going to come out of the stock of, like, say, Gideon, or maybe even Joshua, right, or Samson. But this is a family that nobody has really heard of until now, right? And that's what God does. He takes the lowest and he raised them to the highest estate. All right, verse 22. And Samuel took Saul and his servant and brought them into the parlor and made them sit in the chiefest place among them that were bidden, which were about 30 persons. And Samuel said unto the cook, Bring the portion which I gave thee, of which I said unto thee, set it by thee. And the cook took up the shoulder and that which was upon it, and set it before Saul. And Samuel said, Behold, that which is left, set it before thee and eat. For unto this time hath it been kept for thee, since I said, I invited the people. So Saul did eat with Samuel that day, right? He had his own plate made. Samuel said, I'm going to make this plate up for the king that the Lord sends me. All right. Verse 25. And when they were come down from the high place into the city, Samuel communed with Saul upon the top of the house. And they arose early, and it came to pass about the spring of the day that Samuel called Saul to the top of the house, saying, Up, that I may send thee away. And Saul arose, and they went out, both of them, he and Samuel abroad. And as they were going down to the end of the city, Samuel said to Saul, Bid the servant pass on before us. And he passed on. But stand thou a little while, that I may show thee the word of God. Right? Because he, as we're about to see in the next chapter, he's about to anoint him king over Israel. All right? 1 Samuel 10 and verse 1. Then Samuel took a vial of oil and poured it upon his head and kissed him and said, Is it not because the Lord hath anointed thee to be captain over his inheritance? When thou art departed from me today, then thou shalt find 2 men by Rachel's sepulchre in the border of Benjamin at Zelzah. And they will say unto thee, The asses which thou seekest, which thou wentest to seek, are found. And lo, thy father had left care of the asses, and sorroweth for you, saying, What shall I do for my son? Right? Because his father's starting to get worried. Then shalt thou go on forward from thence, and thou shalt come to the plain of Tabor, and there shall meet thee 3 men going up to God to Bethel, one carrying 3 kids, and another carrying 3 loaves of bread, and another carrying a bottle of wine. And they will salute thee, and give thee 2 loaves of bread, which thou shalt receive of their hands. After that thou shalt come to the hill of God, where is the garrison of the Philistines. And it shall come to pass, when thou art come thither to the city, that thou shalt meet a company of prophets coming down from the high place with a psaltery and a tabret and a pipe and a harp before them, and they shall prophesy, right, with musical instruments. And the Spirit of the Lord will come upon thee, and thou shalt prophesy with them, and thou shalt be turned into another man. Right? So he's talking about the Spirit of God is going to come upon him, and it's going to change you. All right? And let it be, when these signs are come unto thee, that thou do as occasion serve thee, for God is with thee. Right? And then he said, you're on your own at that point. You'll know what to do from there. Right? So Samuel's giving him very specific instructions. Not only that, but he's telling him everything that's about to happen. All right? Verse 8. And thou shalt go down before me to Gilgal, and behold, I will come down unto thee, to offer burnt offerings, and to sacrifice sacrifices of peace offering. 7 days shalt thou tarry, till I come to thee, and show thee what thou shalt do. All right, so he said you're going to be there for a week in Gilgal. let's see if we said, yeah, Gilgal right here. Next to the Jordan, just, I should say just west of the Jordan. Verse 9, and it was so that when he had turned his back to go from Samuel, God gave him another heart, and all those signs came to pass that day, right? God gave him the spirit. He gave him a different mind. And when they came thither to the hill, behold, a company of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he prophesied among them. And it came to pass, when all that knew him before time saw that, behold, he prophesied among the prophets, then the people said to one another, what is this that is come unto the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? And one of the same place answered and said, but who is their father? Therefore it became a proverb, is Saul also among the prophets? And when he had made an end of prophesying, he came to the high place, right? Because when people who were once one way, now they repented and come to the truth, and now they're anointed by God, people who knew them before, they're like, is he really? Is he really prophesying like that? All right, verse 14. And Saul's uncle said unto him and to his servant, whither went ye? And he said, to seek the asses. And when we saw that they were nowhere, we came to Samuel. And Saul's uncle said, tell me, I pray thee, what Samuel say unto you? What Samuel said unto you? And Saul said to his uncle, he told us plainly that the asses were found, but of the matter of the kingdom, whereof Samuel spake, he told him not, right? So he just, he didn't say that he was anointed king, but he told him, he said the asses are okay. Verse 17. And Samuel called the people together unto the Lord to Mizpeh. Right, Mizpeh being in Benjamin. It's very popular in the Judges and in the Kings. All right. And said unto the children of Israel, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought up Israel out of Egypt, and delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all kingdoms, and of them that oppressed you. And ye have this day rejected your God, who himself saved you out of all your adversities and your tribulations, and ye have said unto him, nay, but set a king over us. Now therefore present yourselves before the Lord by your tribes and by your thousands. And see, that's what we had went over last week, how the Lord never wanted a king over Israel. He is the king. The Lord is the king. And we were supposed to be judges and councilmen under him. But of course, we wanted to be like everybody else. So this is what the Lord gave us. He gave us Saul initially. Verse 20. And when Samuel had caused all the tribes of Israel to come near, the tribe of Benjamin was taken. And when he had caused the tribe of Benjamin to come near by their families, the family of Matri was taken. And Saul, the son of Kish, was taken. And when they sought him, he could not be found. Therefore they inquired of the Lord further, if the man should yet come thither. And the Lord answered, behold, he hath hid himself among the stuff. And they ran and fetched him thence. And when he stood among the people, he was higher than any of the people from his shoulders upward, right? He was a head taller than everybody else. And Samuel said to all the people, see ye him whom the Lord hath chosen, that there is none like him among all the people. And all the people shouted and said, God save the king. Right? And that's what we read at the beginning of the last chapter. He looked the part. Right? He looked like a mighty warrior. He looked like someone to be revered. All right, verse 25. Then Samuel told the people the manner of the kingdom, and wrote it in a book, and laid it up before the Lord. And Samuel sent all the people away, every man to his house. And Saul also went home to Gibeah, and there went with him a band of men, whose hearts God had touched. Right, so people moving in the spirit. But the children of Belial said, how shall this man save us? And they despised him and brought him no presents. But he held his peace, right? And, obviously, you're going to always have those people who want to be different. Who, if it's the popular opinion, they want to be contrarian. Right? Not for any reason's sake. These weren't men who said, well, I'll only serve the Lord. I ain't going to serve no man. These are people that just trying to be contrarian to be contrarian. As it says, the children of Belial, meaning the devil. But I do want to make note that in verse 25 it said that Samuel wrote it in a book, right? Because we always did all things by writing. So to establish a king, you had to make it official, and that's what he did by writing it. All right. So 1 Samuel 11, we'll get into Saul's reign and the things that he accomplished. This verse 1. 1 Samuel 11 and verse 1. Then Nahash, the Ammonite, came up and encamped against Jabesh Gilead. And Jabesh Gilead, I believe, is a border city. Let's see, where is Jabesh? That's Ramoth up there. No, Jabesh Gilead is all the way over here towards the Jordan. Right, so they had to go through some Gadite land before they even got there. But it's a crucial point because it is on the Jordan. All right. Let's go back. And all the men of Jabesh said unto Nahash, make a covenant with us, and we will serve thee. And Nahash the Ammonite answered, on this condition will I make a covenant with you, that I may thrust out all your right eyes and lay it for a reproach upon all Israel. And the elders of Jabesh said unto him, give us 7 days respite, that we may send messengers unto all the coasts of Israel, and then, if there be no man to save us, we will come out to thee. And see, that's wild. That's crazy. Instead of trying to fight against this, they said, well, just give us a couple days, and let's see if we can find somebody to help us out. And if not, then yeah, we're going to poke out all our eyes. Verse 4. Then came the messengers to Gibeah of Saul and told the tidings in the ears of the people. And all the people lifted up their voice and wept. Right, a big spirit of fear on the people around this time, all throughout Judges, and as we see it continued here. All right, verse 5. And behold, Saul came after the herd of the field, and Saul said, what aileth the people that they weep? And they told him the tidings of the men of Jabesh. And the Spirit of God came upon Saul when he heard those tidings, and his anger was kindled greatly. And he took a yoke of oxen and hewed them in pieces, and sent them throughout all the coast of Israel by the hands of the messenger, saying, whosoever cometh not forth after Saul and after Samuel, so shall it be done unto his oxen. And the fear of the Lord fell on the people, and they came out with one consent. Right, so he chopped up some of his oxen, sent them out through every land, and he said, look, I'm going to wipe out all your oxen if you don't come and fight for the people of Jabesh. All right, so they all came out together. And when he numbered them in Bezek, the children of Israel were 300,000, and the men of Judah 30,000. All right, so 330,000 men of war. And they said unto the messengers that came, thus shall ye say unto the men of Jabesh Gilead, tomorrow by that time the sun be hot, ye shall have help. And the messengers came and showed it to the men of Jabesh, and they were glad. Verse 10. Therefore the men of Jabesh said, tomorrow we will come out unto you, and ye shall do with us all that seemeth good unto you. And it was so on the morrow that Saul put the people in 3 companies, and they came into the midst of the host of the morning watch, and slew the Ammonites until the heat of the day. And it came to pass that they which remained were scattered, so that 2 of them were not left together. Right, they were running scared by the heat of the day, so like middle of the afternoon. So they got there before they even told them they would. They got there early that morning, fought them till like the middle of the afternoon. All right, verse 12. And the people said unto Samuel, Who is he that said, shall Saul reign over us? Bring the men that we may put them to death. Right. So they said, let's kill all the gainsayers against Saul. All the what's the word I'm looking for? All the resistors. Verse 13. And Saul said, there shall not a man be put to death this day, for today the Lord has wrought salvation in Israel. So Saul said, look, we don't have to kill my dissenters. Let's just celebrate the salvation that the Lord brought us today. Verse 14. Then said Samuel to the people, come, and let us go to Gilgal, and renew the kingdom there. And all the people went to Gilgal, and there they made Saul king before the Lord in Gilgal, and there they sacrifices of peace offerings before the Lord. And there Saul and all the men of Israel rejoiced greatly. Right, so here we have I guess you could say Saul's first exploit. Technically before he was king, but he was already anointed by the Lord. All right. So chapter 12, verse 1. Now, as it says up here, is Samuel's farewell address. This is not technically Saul, but we'll get into it because it pretty much puts a bookend on Samuel, which we didn't necessarily get last week. All right, and Samuel's still around a bit after this, but this is summary basically. Chapter 12, verse 1. And Samuel said unto all Israel, Behold, I have hearkened unto your voice and all that ye said unto me, and have made a king over you. And now, behold, the king walketh before you, and I am old and gray-headed. And behold, my sons are with you, and I have walked before you from my childhood unto this day. Behold, here I am. Witness against me before the Lord and before his anointed. Whose ox have I taken, or whose ass have I taken, or whom have I defrauded? Whom have I oppressed? Or of whose hand have I received any bribe to blind my eyes therewith? And I will restore it you. And they said, Thou hast not defrauded us, nor oppressed us, neither hast thou taken aught of any man's hand. Right? So he always dealt righteously with the people. All right. Let me just check, make sure we're still going good. Yeah, it appears so. All right. So let's keep going. Verse 5. And he said unto them, The Lord is witness against you, and his anointed is witness this day, that ye have not found aught in my hand. And they answered, He is witness. Right? So that would be Saul was witness. And Samuel said unto the people, It is the Lord that advanced Moses and Aaron, and that brought your fathers up out of the land of Egypt. Now therefore stand still, that I may reason with you before the Lord of all the righteous acts of the Lord, which he did to you and your fathers, when Jacob was come into Egypt, and your fathers cried unto the Lord. Then the Lord sent Moses and Aaron, which brought forth your fathers out of Egypt, and made them dwell in this place. And when they forgat the Lord their God, he sold them into the hand of Sisera, captain of the host of Hazor, and into the hand of the Philistines, and into the hand of the king of Moab, and they fought against them. And they cried unto the Lord and said, We have sinned, because we have forsaken the Lord, and served Baalim and Ashtaroth. But now deliver us out of the hand of our enemies, and we will serve thee. And the Lord sent Jerubbaal, and Bedan, and Jephthah, and Samuel, and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies on every side, and you dwelled safe. Right? So he said he brought all the judges, and delivered you out of the hand of your enemies. And when ye saw that Nahash, the king of the children of Ammon, came against you, ye said unto me, Nay, but a king shall reign over us, when the Lord your God was your king. Now therefore, behold the king whom ye have chosen, and whom ye have desired. And behold, the Lord hath set a king over you. If ye will fear the Lord, and serve him, and obey his voice, and not rebel against the commandment of the Lord, then shall both ye and also the king that reigneth over you continue following the Lord your God. But if you will not obey the voice of the Lord, but rebel against the commandments of the Lord, then shall the hand of the Lord be against you as it was against your fathers. Right? Saying you'll go into captivity under these nations. Now therefore stand and see this great thing, which the Lord will do before your eyes. Is it not wheat harvest today? I will call unto the Lord, and he shall send thunder and rain, that ye may perceive and see that your wickedness is great, which ye have done in the sight of the Lord in asking you a king. So Samuel called unto the Lord, and the Lord sent thunder and rain that day, and all the people greatly feared the Lord and Samuel. Right? Because during harvest you don't want rain, because you want to be out there gathering the crops. Right? You don't need the rain to make them grow anymore. All right. So they weren't able to bring in their crops because the Lord had brought in that thunder and rain. He had hearkened unto Samuel in that. Verse 19. And all the people said unto Samuel, Pray for thy servants unto the Lord thy God, that we die not. For we have added unto all our sins this evil to ask its kings. Right? So now they're starting to get it. They're starting to understand. But it's too late at this point. The ball's already rolling. Right? They've already anointed the king. And Samuel said unto the people, Fear not, ye have done all this wickedness, yet turn not aside from following the Lord, but serve the Lord with all your heart. Excuse me. And I think that's a good message right there, right? For anybody who don't know where to start, don't know how to repent, they think, well, what would the Lord have to do with me, right? I've done all this evil. This is what he said right here. He said, Fear not, you have done all this wickedness, yet turn not aside from following the Lord, but serve the Lord with all your heart. And that's what you see throughout the scriptures, that the Lord is gracious. He is merciful to all those that will call upon him. All right, verse 21. And turn ye not aside, for then should ye go after vain things which cannot profit nor deliver, for they are vain. For the Lord will not forsake his people for his great name's sake, because it hath pleased the Lord to make you his people. Right? Notice it said for his name's sake. He's not going to be called a hateful God. He's not going to be called a God who destroyed his people. Never. Verse 23. Moreover, as for me, God forbid that I should sin against the Lord in ceasing to pray for you, but I will teach you the good and the right way. Right? So he's like, I'm not dead yet. As long as I'm around, I'm going to give y'all counsel in righteousness. Only fear the Lord and serve him in truth with all your heart. For consider how great things he hath done for you. But if ye shall still do wickedly, ye shall be consumed, both ye and your king. Right? So he's giving them a warning that, look, if you and your king are righteous, the Lord will advance you. Right? The Lord will make you to prosper. But if you and your king are wicked, then he will destroy you. All right? Same thing applies. It's basically an extension of Deuteronomy 28. All right, 1 Samuel 13. I'm going to start with verse 1. And again, we're getting into the exploits of Saul. Saul reigned 1 year, and when he had reigned 2 years over Israel, Saul chose him 3,000 men of Israel, whereof 2,000 were with Saul in Michmash and in Mount Bethel, and 1,000 were with Jonathan in Gibeah of Benjamin. All right, I don't think we'll see Michmash on here, but we will see Bethel right here. So it mentioned that, well, Gibeon may be the same as Gibeah, but it mentioned how whenever Saul was young and he was chasing the asses, he went through Mount Ephraim, and Mount Ephraim goes down into this whole region east of Ephraim and even into the northwest of Benjamin territory. So I can only imagine Michmash was somewhere in there. All right. And the rest of the people he sent every man to his tent. And Jonathan smote the garrison of the Philistines that was in Geba, and the Philistines heard of it. Let's see if Geba we see anywhere on here. No, I don't. But again, we've spoken of this before. The disputed territory between the Judites and the Philistines is probably in this valley here, most likely. But anyway, let's get back to it. And the Philistines heard of it, and Saul blew the trumpet throughout all the land, saying, "Let the Hebrews hear." And all Israel heard say that Saul had smitten the garrison of the Philistines, and that Israel also had an abomination with the Philistines. And the people were called together after Saul to Gilgal. Right? The Philistines hate the Israelites. And the Philistines gathered themselves together to fight with Israel, 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and people as the sand, which is on the seashore for multitude. And they came up and pitched in Michmash, eastward from Beth Aven. Okay, so it is actually giving us a location for Michmash in Beth Aven. I don't even believe it's showing Beth Aven on here, but I believe it's somewhere around this, whether it be like Tribe Province area or somewhere around Dan and Judah. It's probably where it's at. I thought I had seen Beth Aven on here at some point, but I guess not. No, I don't see it, unfortunately. Alright, let's get back though. We just know Michmash is east of Beth Aven. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a strait, for the people were distressed, then the people did hide themselves in caves, and in thickets, and in rocks, and in high places, and in pits. And some of the Hebrews went over Jordan to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was yet in Gilgal, and all the people followed him trembling. Right, so look at the map here. When you had the Philistines advance on the people, right, they're coming from this territory. That's where the Philistines are. Right here on the Gaza Strip. That's the Philistines. So as they moved through the land, you had some of the people crossed over the land into the land of Gad and into the land of Gilead. But Saul held strong his fortress here in Gilgal. Let's get back to it. Verse 8. And he tarried 7 days, according to the set time that Samuel had appointed. But Samuel came not to Gilgal, and the people were scattered from him. Right? People began to lose hope. And Saul said, "Bring hither a burnt offering to me, and peace offerings." And he offered the burnt offering, right? Which As it says right here, Saul's unlawful sacrifice. You're only supposed to let the chosen of God, the Levites, to offer the offerings. But he did it on his own. And it came to pass that as soon as he had made an end of offering the burnt offering, behold, Samuel came, and Saul went out to meet him that he might salute him. And Samuel said, What hast thou done? And Saul said, Because I saw the people were scattered from me, and that thou camest not within the days appointed, and that the Philistines gathered themselves together at Michmash. Therefore said I, The Philistines will come down now upon me to Gilgal, and I have not made supplication unto the Lord. I forced myself therefore and offered a burnt offering. And Samuel said to Saul, Thou hast done foolishly. Thou hast not kept the commandment of the Lord thy God, which he commanded thee. For now would the Lord have established thy kingdom upon Israel forever. But now thy kingdom shall not continue. Right? So this Samuel said, Look, the Lord would have established your kingdom forever and would have made your lineage chosen in Israel. But now that you have disobeyed the Lord, he can't do that. Your kingdom will not continue. The Lord had sought him a man after his own heart, and the Lord had commanded him to be captain over his people, because thou hast not kept that which the Lord commanded thee. And Samuel rose and gat him up from Gilgal unto Gibeah of Benjamin. And Saul numbered the people that were present with him about 600 men. And Saul and Jonathan his son and the people that were present with them abode in Gibeah of Benjamin, but the Philistines encamped in Michmash. And the spoilers came out of the camp of the Philistines in 3 companies. One company turned unto the way that leadeth to Ophrah, unto the land of Shual. And another company turned the way to Beth Horon. And another company turned to the way of the border that looketh to the valley of Zeboam toward the wilderness. All right. So they're coming at them from 3 sides. The wilderness, I can tell you that the wilderness in Judah is down towards this way, like towards the land of Simeon, but mainly like right in here. That's the wilderness of Judah. So that must be Zeboam. And Beth Horon, I know I've seen that on here. Yeah, Beth Horon is over here south of it's a southern city of Ephraim, on the border of Dan. What was the other thing it said? It said Ophrah. I don't think we see Ophrah over here. Maybe we do. Yeah, here it is, right here. So yeah, it's coming at them from 3 different sides. Right, from this side, and from the south. All right. Verse 19. Now there was no smith found throughout all the land of Israel, for the Philistines said, lest the Hebrews make them swords or spears. Right? So that's how much of a stranglehold that the Philistines had on Israel at that time. They said they can't have no smith, they can't have no metal forgers. But all the Israelites went down to the Philistines to sharpen every man his shear, and his coulter, and his axe, and his mattock. Yet they had a file for the mattocks, and for the coulters, and for the forks, and for the axes to sharpen the goads. So it came to pass in the day of the battle that there was neither sword nor spear found in the hand of any of the people that were with Saul and Jonathan. But with Saul and with Jonathan, his son, was there found. Right? So they had all the weapons. All right, Saul and Jonathan. And the garrison of the Philistines went out to the passage of Michmash. All right, so this is building up to this war. This is 1 Samuel 14 and verse 1. Now it came to pass upon a day that Jonathan the son of Saul said unto the young man that bare his armor, Come, and let us go over to the Philistines' garrison that is on the other side. But he told not his father. And Saul tarried in the uttermost part of Gibeah under a pomegranate tree, which is in Migron. That must be a suburb or a community within Gibeah. And the people that were with him were about 600 men. And Ahiah, the son of Ahitub, Ichabod's brother, the son of Phinehas, the son of Eli, the Lord's priest in Shiloh, wearing an ephod. So Ahiah was the priest at the time. And the people knew not that Jonathan was gone. And between the passages by which Jonathan sought to go over into the Philistines' garrison, there was a sharp rock on the one side and a sharp rock on the other side. And the name of the one was Bozez, and the name of the other Seneh. The forefront of the one was situate northward over against Michmash, and the other southward over against Gibeah. Right, so it's giving you a description of the land because of what's going to happen later and how the battle is set up. Verse 6, and Jonathan said to the young man that bare his armor, come and let us go over unto the garrison of these uncircumcised. It may be that the Lord will work for us, for there is no restraint to the Lord to save by many or by few. Right, so Jonathan is a man in the spirit. Right, he has the spirit of the Lord. He understands. Look, the Lord can deliver. Many men in the hand of a few. All right. Verse 7, and his armor bearer said unto him, do all that is in thy heart. Turn thee, behold, I am with thee according to thy heart. Right, so he's got a loyal servant as well, saying, whatever you want to do, I'm with you. Then said Jonathan, behold, we will pass over unto these men, and we will discover ourselves unto them. If they say thus unto us, tarry until we come to you, then we will stand still in our place and will not go up unto them. But if they say thus, come up to us, then we will go up. For the Lord hath delivered them into our hand, and this shall be a sign unto us. Right, so Jonathan saying, if this happens, then we do this, but if this happens, this is what we do, and it'll be a sign for us whether or not the Lord wants us to do this or not. And both of them discovered themselves unto the garrison of the Philistines. And the Philistines said, behold, the Hebrews come forth out of the holes where they had hid themselves. And the men of the garrison answered Jonathan and his armor bearer and said, come up to us, and we will show you a thing. And Jonathan said unto his armor bearer, come up after me, for the Lord had delivered them into the hand of Israel. And Jonathan climbed up upon his hands and upon his feet, and his armor bearer after him. And they fell before Jonathan, and his armor bearer slew after him. Right, so they were both fighting at this strategic area where they climbed up on these rocks. And verse 14. And that first slaughter which Jonathan and his armor bearer made was about 20 men, within, as it were, an half acre of land, which a yoke of oxen might plow. Right, so it was 20 men surrounding them. Verse 15. And there was a trembling in the host in the field and among all the people, the garrison and the spoilers. They also trembled, and the earth quaked. So it was a very great trembling. And the watchmen of Saul and Gibeah of Benjamin looked, and behold, the multitude melted away, and they went on beating down one another. Then said Saul unto the people that were with him, number now and see who is gone from us. And when they had numbered, behold, Jonathan and his armor bearer were not there. Right, so it's actually drawing these Philistines away from where Saul is, because these 20 that were going against these two are getting their butt whooped. All right, verse 18. And Saul said unto Ahiah, bring hither the ark of God, for the ark of God was at that time with the children of Israel. And it came to pass, while Saul talked unto the priest, that the noise that was in the host of the Philistines went on and increased. And Saul said unto the priest, withdraw thy hand. And Saul and all the people that were with him assembled themselves, and they came to the battle. And behold, every man's sword was against his fellow, and there was a very great discomfiture. Now, I'm not that smart. I don't know what discomfiture means. Let's see. A feeling of unease or embarrassment, awkwardness. All right. Probably not awkwardness, but unease. Right. Everybody was fighting with one another. That is, the Israelites versus the Philistines. Moreover, the Hebrews that were with the Philistines before that time, which went up with them into the camp from the country round about, even they also turned to be with the Israelites that were with Saul and Jonathan. Right? So you had, even at that time, you had Israelites living amongst the Philistines. Right? And even them in that battle, they were like, no, we're going back. We're going back with the rest of the Israelites, with the rest of the Hebrews. This is verse 22. Likewise, all the men of Israel, which had hid themselves in Mount Ephraim, when they heard that the Philistines fled, even they also followed hard after them in battle. Right? So bring people out of the woodwork. Everybody's coming to the battle. So the Lord saved Israel that day, and the battle passed over unto Beth-aven. Verse 24. And the men of Israel were distressed that day, for Saul had adjured the people, saying, cursed be the man that eateth any food until evening, that I may be avenged on mine enemies. So none of the people tasted any food. right? That's self-explanatory. Saul said, while the battle's going on, don't eat anything. And so nobody eat nothing. Verse 25. And all they of the land came to a wood, and there was honey upon the ground, right, in the woods. And when the people were come into the wood, behold, the honey dropped. But no man put his hand to his mouth, for the people feared the oath. But Jonathan heard not when his father charged the people with the oath. Wherefore he put forth the end of the rod that was in his hand, and dipped it in a honeycomb, and put his hand to his mouth, and his eyes were enlightened, right? He was refreshed. Then answered one of the people and said, Thy father straitly charged the people with an oath, saying, Cursed be the man that eateth any food this day. And the people were faint. Right? So Jonathan's the only one to eat anything because he didn't hear the oath, or the decree, I should say, that the king made. Then said Jonathan, My father had troubled the land. See, I pray you, how mine eyes have been enlightened, because I tasted a little of this honey. Right? And again, Jonathan is in the spirit of the Lord, because we see that even in the last chapter, in chapter 13, I didn't really touch on it too much, but Saul was already going against the commandments of the Lord. And here he's putting burdens on the people that they didn't need to bear. I'll put it like that. It's not wrong to say, well, I'm declaring a fast today, but in the middle of the battle and putting people to death for not, going along with your fast, that's a burden that's unnecessary, right? Verse 30. How much more if haply the people had eaten freely today of the spoil of their enemies which they found? For had there not been now a much greater slaughter among the Philistines? So Jonathan's saying, look, if we would have been eating the spoil, eating what we had taken from the Philistines, it would have encouraged the people to fight harder. Verse 31. And they smote the Philistines that day from Michmash to Aijalon. Let's see if I see Aijalon on here. That seems like something that I've seen. Yes, right here. So at least it drove them from around this area, something like that. It drove them this way. All right. And the people were very faint. And the people flew upon the spoil, and took sheep and oxen and calves, and slew them on the ground. And the people did eat them with the blood. And that's, if you know the law, you know that's unlawful. In Leviticus 17, it says, don't eat anything with the blood. Then they told Saul, saying, Behold, the people sin against the Lord, and that they eat with the blood. And he said, Ye have transgressed. Roll a great stone unto me this day. And Saul said, Disperse yourselves among the people, and say unto them, Bring me hither every man his ox, and every man his sheep, and slay them here, and eat, and sin not against the Lord in eating with the blood. And all the people brought every man his ox with him that night, and slew them there. Right, so they broke the fast with a great feast. And Saul built an altar unto the Lord, and the same was the first altar that he built unto the Lord. Verse 36, and Saul said, Let us go down after the Philistines by night, and spoil them until the morning light, and let us not leave a man of them. And they said, Do whatsoever seemeth good unto thee. Then said the priest, Let us draw near hither unto God. Verse 37, and Saul asked counsel of God, Shall I go down after the Philistines? Wilt thou deliver them into the hand of Israel? But he answered him not that day. Right? So Saul seeking counsel from the priest, but the priest isn't receiving any word from God. And Saul said, Draw ye near hither, all the chief of the people, and know and see wherein this sin hath been this day. For as the Lord liveth, which saveth Israel, though it be in Jonathan my son, he shall surely die. But there was not a man among all the people that answered him. Right? So Saul said, I don't care if it's my son. He'll die today if there's sin in him. Verse 40. Then said he unto all Israel, Be ye on one side, and I and Jonathan my son will be on the other side. And the people said unto Saul, Do what seemeth good unto thee. Therefore Saul said unto the Lord God of Israel, Give a perfect lot. And Saul and Jonathan were taken, but the people escaped. Right? So he prayed to the Lord for justice and truth when looking for answers here. And the Lord revealed unto him, okay, the sin is within Saul and Jonathan, and not with the rest of the people. And Saul said, Cast lots between me and Jonathan my son, and Jonathan was taken. Verse 43. Then Saul said unto Jonathan, Tell me what thou hast done. And Jonathan told him and said, I did but taste a little honey with the end of the rod that was in my hand, and lo, I must die. And Saul answered, God do so, and more also, for thou shalt surely die, Jonathan. And the people said unto Saul, Shall Jonathan die, who hath wrought this great salvation in Israel? God forbid. Right? So Saul was even going to go through with it and kill his son for this, breaking his oath, breaking Saul's oath that Jonathan didn't even know about. But the people are the ones who stepped in and said, no, don't put Jonathan to death. He didn't know. All right. As the Lord liveth, there shall not one hair of his head fall to the ground, for he hath wrought with God this day. So the people rescued Jonathan, that he died not. Verse 46, Then Saul went up from following the Philistines, and the Philistines went to their own place. Verse 47, So Saul took the kingdom over Israel, and fought against all his enemies on every side, against Moab, and against the children of Ammon, and against Edom, and against the kings of Zobah, and against the Philistines. All right, so I don't know if it shows it on the map. Well, it does show the children of Ammon over here east of Gad. That was the first exploit of Saul against Jabesh Gilead. The Ammonites came. I also mentioned Philistines, which we've been talking about right here in the Gaza coast. Who else did it say? Against Edom and Zobah. Right? Zobah would be north in Syria, if I'm not mistaken. So up here in the north. And then, of course, Edom down here to the south of Judah, southeast. All right. And still in verse 47. And whithersoever he turned himself, he vexed them. Right? He smote them, annoyed them, oppressed them, whatever you want to say. Verse 48, And he gathered a host and smote the Amalekites and delivered Israel out of the hands of them that spoiled them. Right, so Amalekites were down there with Edom. Verse 49. Now the sons of Saul were Jonathan and Eshui and Melchishua, and the names of his two daughters were these: the name of the first born Merab, name of the younger Michal. Right, so the main ones that come up are later, I should say, are Jonathan and Michal. And the name of Saul's wife was Ahinoam, the daughter of Ahimaaz. The name of the captain of his host was Abner, the son of Ner, Saul's uncle. And Kish was the father of Saul. And Ner, the father of Abner, was the son of Abiel. All right. So that would make Kish and it doesn't say if Ner was Kish's brother, but it was Saul's uncle regardless. And there was sore war against the Philistines all the days of Saul. And when Saul saw any strong man or any valiant man, he took him unto him. Right, and that's exactly what Samuel said, that all the captains of the hosts, all the captains and the officers over the people would be subject to what the king had to say. All right. So I do want to read this last chapter before we close it out. This is 1 Samuel 15, and this is a good stopping place because it goes into the last straw with Saul, or the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. Because we already see how he had put a great burden on the people by instituting that fast that day, right? Almost had to kill his own son over it. And not even just instituting the fast, but the oath that came along with it. But also, even before then, he put it upon himself to make sacrifices to the Lord, and disregarded the entire order that was set in place at the time. 1 Samuel 15, starting with verse 1. And Samuel said unto Saul, The Lord sent me to anoint thee to be king over his people, over Israel. Now, therefore, hearken thou unto the voice of the Lord's, the voice of the words of the Lord. Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt, right? And you read about that in Exodus 17. Now go and smite Amalek, and utterly destroy all that they have, and spare them not, but slay both man and woman, infant and suckling, ox and sheep, camel and ass, right? So God is saying, wipe them out. Verse 4. And Saul gathered the people together and numbered them in Telaim, 200,000 footmen and 10,000 men of Judah. And I also want to point out, because this comes into play later, where it said kill all their animals and stuff too. All right. Verse 5. And Saul came to a city of Amalek and laid wait in the valley. And Saul said unto the Kenites, Go, depart, get you down from among the Amalekites, lest I destroy you with them. For ye showed kindness to all the children of Israel when they came up out of Egypt. So the Kenites departed from among the Amalekites. So the Kenites have to do with Moses' father-in-law's people. That's the Kenites. Let's see if it shows any of Amalek on this map. No, they're just it's like south of Edom here. I doubt it will show it on this other one, but it might. Not that one, this one. No, it doesn't. But they're around this region. All right. So let's get back to it. All right. This is verse 7. And Saul smote the Amalekites from Havilah until thou comest to Shur, that is over against Egypt. And he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive, and utterly destroyed all the people with the edge of the sword. But Saul and the people spared Agag, and the best of the sheep, and of the oxen, and of the fatlings, and the lambs, and all that was good, and would not utterly destroy them. But everything that was vile and refused, that they destroyed utterly. So God had told them to destroy all the animals, right? But they kept the good stuff for themselves. Verse 10. Then came the word of the Lord unto Samuel, saying, It repenteth me that I have set up Saul to be king, for he has turned back from following me, and hath not performed my commandments. Right? We see that, especially these 2 times, but you could also consider that burden that he placed on the people, not the commandment of the Lord as well. And it grieved Samuel, and he cried unto the Lord all night, right? Because he loved Saul. He developed this relationship with him. All right, he's the one that anointed him, brought him up, taught him, all that kind of stuff. He probably saw him as like a son type figure. And when Samuel rose early to meet Saul in the morning, it was told Samuel, saying, Saul came to Carmel, and behold, he set him up a place, and is gone about, and passed on, and gone down to Gilgal. And Samuel came to Saul, and Saul said unto him, Blessed be thou of the Lord. I have performed the commandment of the Lord. Right, straight line. Verse 14. And Samuel said, What meaneth then this bleating of the sheep in mine ears, and the lowing of the oxen which I hear? And Saul said, They have brought them from the Amalekites, for the people spared the best of the sheep and of the oxen to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God, and the rest we have utterly destroyed. Then Samuel said to Saul, Stay, and I will tell thee what the Lord hath done to me this night. And he said unto him, Say on. Verse 17. And Samuel said, When thou wast little in thine own sight, wast thou not made the head of the tribes of Israel, and the Lord anointed thee king over Israel? And the Lord sent thee on a journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed? Wherefore then did thou not obey the voice of the Lord, but did fly upon the spoil, and did evil in the sight of the Lord? Verse 20. And Saul said unto Samuel, Yea, I have obeyed the voice of the Lord, and have gone the way which the Lord sent me, and have brought Agag, the king of Amalek, and have utterly destroyed the Amalekites. Right? So he's still not even seeing it. He's still saying, I obeyed the voice of the Lord, even though he specifically did not. Right? He did it in his own way, which God says over and over throughout the law, don't go to the right hand or to the left. All right? Just keep the commandments. All right? Verse 21. But the people took of the spoil, sheep and oxen, the chief of the things which should have been utterly destroyed, to sacrifice unto the Lord thy God in Gilgal. And Samuel said, Hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. All right? So that's always been the case, right? Because we here in the New Testament, we don't sacrifice animals anymore, right? We understand that Christ is the sacrifice, because it's always been the case that to obey the Lord and to listen to his word is better than sacrifice. All right, verse 23. For rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft, and stubbornness is as iniquity and idolatry. Because thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, he hath also rejected thee from being king. Right? So just told him. Because the Lord had already, well, actually Samuel had already warned Saul in chapter 13. that his kingdom will not continue forever. He's telling him right now, look, God has rejected you from being king. It's going to be in your lifetime when the kingdom is given to, your servant, essentially. We'll read about that next week. But verse 24. And Saul said unto Samuel, I have sinned, for I have transgressed the commandment of the Lord and thy words, because I feared the people and obeyed their voice. Verse 25. Now therefore I pray thee, pardon my sin, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord. And Samuel said unto Saul, I will not return with thee, for thou hast rejected the word of the Lord, and the Lord hath rejected thee from being king over Israel. Verse 27. And as Samuel turned about to go away, he laid hold upon the skirt of his mantle, and it rent. Right? So Saul's begging here on his knees, and he's, please don't go. Right? And Samuel said unto him, the Lord hath rent the kingdom of Israel from thee this day, and hath given it to a neighbor of thine that is better than thou. Those words gotta hurt. Verse 29. And also the strength of Israel will not lie nor repent, for he is not a man that he should repent. Right, so he's saying God's not going to change his mind. And then he said, I have sinned, yet honor me now, I pray thee, before the elders of my people and before Israel, and turn again with me, that I may worship the Lord thy God. So Samuel turned again after Saul, and Saul worshiped the Lord. Right, so he said, at least stay here and worship with me. And Samuel did that. Verse 32. Then said Samuel, bring ye hither to me Agag, the king of the Amalekites. And Agag came unto him delicately. And Agag said, surely the bitterness of death is past. Right, so he's thinking, I've been kept alive this whole time thus far, so I'm gonna be all right. This king of Amalek. And Samuel said, as thy sword hath made women childless, so shall thy mother be childless among women. And Samuel hewed Agag in pieces before the Lord in Gilgal. Right, chopped him up. Verse 34. Then Samuel went to Ramah, and Saul went up to his house to Gibeah of Saul. And Samuel came no more to see Saul until the day of his death. Nevertheless, Samuel mourned for Saul, and the Lord repented that he had made Saul king over Israel. Right, so God is starting to not want Saul as king anymore, and we'll see in the next chapter how he anoints King David, or should I say David, the son of Jesse, to be king. Next week we'll get into that. But with that, hope y'all learned something. And the story of Saul is that of, not getting yourself right, not doing the things that the Lord had commanded, and then, going off. Because we've seen that the Spirit of the Lord was upon him at one point in time. He had the opportunity to do everything right. He just didn't. But with that, hope y'all learned something. I'll give all praise to the Most High once again, and shalom, Most High in Christ bless.